Algebra 1, 5x minus 7 equals 2x minus 3. Notice how I start with what we know, and then I just add the little piece that's new for today. The piece that's new for today is we're going to switch it from an equal sign to an inequality. That's the only difference. Okay? That's the only difference today. What that means differently for you is there's one special rule we have to deal with, which we'll get to in a couple minutes. And we're going to graph our answers on a number line, which we'll talk about that too. Since we're dealing with an inequality, that's going to open up our answers to more things. You just took a quiz. The answers to the first question, there were two specific numbers that were answers. Like in the first quiz, it was 8 and 0. There were two numbers that were answers. With these inequality questions, your answer is going to be something like x is greater than 9. So anything greater than 9 is an answer. So we're opening up millions of answers, whereas with an equality sign, an equal sign, we just have one. Which is why, same idea, when you graph a line, which we'll get to next chapter, that's specific points that are answers. But when you shade, that's when you have greater than, less than. That's opening up millions of points that are answers. All right? So let's just start working through these, and I'll tell you when the special cases occur. Here we have x plus 5 is less than or equal to 7. Negative 7, sorry. I want to know what numbers we would put in for x so that the left side would be less than or equal to negative 7. So you could probably say, well, negative 200 would work. Negative 200 plus 5 would be negative 195, and that's surely less than or equal to 7. You could think of a whole bunch of things. But we want to come up with a rule that states all the answers at once. So if we subtract the 5 over, we get x is less than or equal to negative 12. And those are the numbers that work to put into the purple X. All numbers that are less than or equal to negative 12. So negative 200 is part of that. Negative 200 is less than negative 12. Okay? So all the numbers that work in the purple problem are the numbers that are smaller than negative 12 or equal to negative 12. And on a number line, what we do is we draw a number line and we find negative 12. Is negative 12 part of our answer? Yes, because why? Because it's got that equal part. Good. And when the negative 12 is part of the answer, we put a solid dot. And we want the numbers that are less than negative 12. Does that include 0? Is 0 less than negative 12? No, it's bigger than negative 12, so we're going the other direction. Bam. So that picture shows all of the numbers that are less than or equal to negative 12. So that line, number line with the graph on it, is a picture, a graph that shows all of your answers. Let's try again. 2n minus 3 is greater than 21. Why don't you go ahead and try that one, and then we'll go over it together. Okay. Add 3. Divide by 2. The correct answers, the numbers that work when you put them in for the purple n, are the numbers that are greater than 12. On a number line, 12 is over here. Is 12 part of our answer? No, because there's not the little equal sign under. See the difference? Not the little line under the greater than.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for responding when I was looking right at you. So it does not count, so that's an open circle. So the arrow, we want the numbers bigger than 12, so the arrow goes to the right. Now let's look at a special case. Negative 12 is greater than or equal to negative 0.3 p. To get the p by itself, we are going to have to divide by negative 0.3, both sides. This is a case where you are going to have to invert the inequality sign. And the general rule is, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you must invert the inequality sign. Okay? Now, kids screw that up a lot. I didn't say anytime the problem has a negative in it, you invert the inequality sign. Nor did I say anytime you move a negative, you invert the inequality sign. What I said was, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you must invert the inequality sign. Okay? We divided by a negative, negative 0.3. Whether the 12 is positive or negative is really moot to the problem. The fact that we are dividing by a negative is what's important. Now, why do we do that? Just because your teacher's always told you to? That's true. I think you're saying what I'm going to say now. All right. Very good, Schrocker. 6 is less than 7. Would you agree? 6 is less than 7. Are you sure? Okay. 6 is less than 7. If we multiply those by negative 1, now their relationship changes. Negative 6 is greater than negative 7. So 6 and 7 have a relationship. 6 is less than 7. When you make them negative, their relationship changes. Now negative 6 is greater than negative 7. If we changed them back to positive, then of course 6 would be less than 7. And so that's what happens when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative. You're changing that relationship, and so you have to invert that inequality sign accordingly. Okay? To graph this, I would invert it just because I like to have that letter on the left side. I would change it to p is greater than or equal to 40. Just taking the whole inequality and reversing it. And then I would put my number line, solid circle, because it has the equal on the bottom, arrow to the right. All right. Time for you to try one. I want you to solve this inequality and graph it on a number line, and then we'll go over it in a couple minutes. I chose to distribute. You have to make sure, though, that you end up with a plus 12. Common teenage mistake is you would end up with a minus 12 there on your distribution. So make sure that that negative 3 gets carried to the negative 4. So you should have negative 6x plus 12. If you chose to divide by 3 at the beginning, that's just fine. No problem there. It's greater than 6. Subtract 12. So I have that. Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. At that point, I have to flip my inequality because I divided by a negative. And my graph is x is less than negative 1. Open circle because I am not dealing with less than or equal to. I'm dealing just with less than. We're going to distribute the 2, and we're going to distribute that negative 2. Quiet, please. So we have to be careful at the end that we have a plus 10. If you have a minus 10, that's going to be a very common mistake because we're continuing to forget to distribute our negative to our negative. So make sure you have a plus 10 there at the end. Then on the right side, we have 2 x's that we can combine into just a 1x. I'm going to subtract that x over to the left. Then I'm going to subtract the 8. At no time did I multiply or divide by a negative. So at no time do I need to invert my inequality sign. And my graph looks like that.